Decebalus was the last king of Dacia. He is famous for fighting 3 wars, with varying success, against the Roman Empire under 2 emperors. After raiding across the Danube, he defeated a Roman invasion in the reign of Domitian, securing a period of independence during which Decebalus consolidated his rule. When Trajan came to power, his armies invaded Dacia to weaken its threat to Roman border territory. Decebalus was defeated. He remained in power as a client king, but continued to assert his independence, leading to a final and overwhelming Roman invasion in 105. Trajan reduced the Dacian capital Sarmizegetusa in 106, absorbing Dacia into the empire. Decebalus committed suicide to avoid capture. Since the mid-19th century, Decebalus has been portrayed as a national hero in Romania, the modern successor to ancient Dacia. There are several monuments depicting him. Early life. After the death of great King Burebista, Dacia split into 4, then 5, smaller states. Nothing is known about Decebalus' youthful background. Decebalus appears to have risen to prominence in the court of the Dacian king Duras, who claimed authority over all Dacian territory. An ancient Dacian pot bearing the words Decebalus Pascorillo led to the suggestion that this might mean Decebalus, son of Scorillo. According to Lucian Boyer, this suggestion was originally a scholarly joke, but the theory has been considered plausible by several writers. It has been suggested that Scorillo may be identical to the Corylus or Scorillus, identified by Jordanes as a Dacian king prior to Duras. Duras may have been Decebalus' uncle, having taken over the throne by agnatic right on his brother's death. In 85, the Dacian army began minor raids upon the heavily fortified Roman province of Moesia, located south of the Danube. In 86, King Duras ordered a more vigorous attack south into Moesia. Roman sources refer to the attack being led by Diocletian. Many authors have taken this person to be Duras himself, and refer to him as Duras Diocletian. Other scholars argue that Duras and Diocletian are different individuals, or that Diocletian is identical to Decebalus. Recent sources take the view that Diocletian is most likely Decebalus. The Dacians defeated and killed Oppius Sabinus, the governor of Moesia, forcing Domitian to deploy more troops to the area. Cornelius Nigrinus replaced Sabinus. Domitian took command to deal with the problem himself, arriving with his general, prefect of the Praetorian Guards, Cornelius Fuscus. War against Emperor Domitian. Domitian pushed back the Dacians from Moesia, then returned to Rome to celebrate a triumph, leaving Fuscus in charge of the army. Fuscus advanced into Dacia, but his 4 or 5 legions suffered a major defeat when ambushed by the forces of Decebalus. 2 Roman legions were ambushed and defeated at a mountain pass the Romans called Tarpi. Fuscus was killed, and Decebalus was crowned king after the aging Duras abdicated. Dio Cassius described Decebalus as follows. Fuscus was replaced by Tetius Julianus. In 88, Julianus commanded another Roman army under Domitian against the Dacians. Julianus defeated the Dacians at a battle near Tarpi. However, elsewhere in Europe, Domitian was having to deal with revolts along the Rhine, and suffered heavy defeats at the hands of the Marcomanni and Sarmatian tribes in the east, notably the Jazyges. Needing the troops in Moesia, Domitian agreed to peace terms with Decebalus. He agreed to pay large sums in annual tribute to the Dacians for maintaining peace. Decebalus sent his brother Diogenes to Rome to accept a diadem from the emperor, officially recognizing Decebalus's royal status. Consolidation of Power. Decebalus' victory greatly increased his prestige. He proceeded to centralize power and build up his fortifications and his war machines, using engineers supplied by Domitian. Decebalus's court also became a haven for malcontents and deserters from the Roman Empire, becoming the nucleus for anti-Roman sentiment. In the words of historian Julian Bennett, He also sought to build alliances with independent tribes, notably the Getic Bastarnae and the Sarmatian Roxolani. He failed to secure the support of the Quadi, Marcomanni and Jazyges, but ensured that they would not interfere with his plans. Conflicts with Trajan. First Dacian War. When Trajan came to power in 98, he immediately toured the Danube area and ordered the strengthening of fortifications along the Dacian frontier. 3 years later, Trajan decided to launch an offensive against Dacia. According to Cassius Dio, this was because he had taken stock of their previous record, resented the annual sums of money they were getting, and saw that their powers and their pride were on the increase. Trajan's force crossed the Danube in 101 and advanced into Dacia, pushing back Dacian forces. According to Dio, Decebalus sent envoys asking for negotiations, but Trajan refused a personal meeting. At the Second Battle of Tarpi, Decebalus was defeated, but he seems to have inflicted serious losses on the Romans. Trajan chose not to pursue the war until the spring. Decebalus tried to wrong-foot Trajan by launching a surprise attack on Moesia, but he suffered a major defeat at the Battle of Adamclizi. Despite stiff resistance, the Romans closed on the Dacian capital by early 102. Decebalus was forced to concede defeat and accept Trajan's terms, which included the loss of extensive territories in the vicinity of the Danube and the dismantling of his fortresses. However, Decebalus retained his throne. Second Dacian War. Decebalus had no intention of allowing himself to remain subject to Rome, or of giving up his lost territory. As soon as he was able to, he took revenge on the tribes that had supported Rome. He annexed territory from the Jazygians and violated the peace treaty by rearming and receiving refugees and deserters from Roman territory. He also restored his fortifications. This time, Decebalus did not wait for Trajan to strike. In 105 he authorized a direct attack on the newly occupied Roman territory, probably the fortress at Banat. The attack seems to have taken Trajan and the Senate by surprise. Trajan immediately traveled north to review fortifications. Meanwhile, Decebalus continued to disrupt Roman positions with guerrilla attacks. He also developed a plan to assassinate Trajan by using Roman auxiliaries who had defected to the Dacians to infiltrate the emperor's camp. The plot failed. However, he succeeded in capturing one of Trajan's senior officers, Pompeius Longinus, whom he tried to use as a hostage to bargain with Trajan. Longinus took poison to avoid being used. Trajan, meanwhile, was building a large force for a full-scale invasion. Decebalus tried to negotiate a peace settlement, but Trajan demanded that Decebalus surrender himself, which he refused to do. Decebalus' allies among the surrounding tribes seem to have deserted him at this point. Trajan launched a direct attack on the Dacian capital, Sarmizegetusa. After a long siege of Sarmizegetusa and a few skirmishes in the greater region, the Romans conquered Dacia. Decebalus managed to escape with his family. He and his remaining supporters continued a guerrilla campaign in the Carpathian Mountains. Death-hunted, having his army defeated and finally cornered by Roman detachments seeking his head. Rather than being captured to be exhibited and humiliated at Rome, Decebalus committed suicide by slashing his own throat, as depicted on Trajan's column. It is likely that he killed himself as a Roman cavalry scout named Tiberius Claudius Maximus from Legio 7. Claudia was approaching. He was probably still alive when Maximus reached him, as is claimed on Maximus, a funerary stela discovered at Gramenai in Greece. Maximus is presumably the figure seen on Trajan's column reaching out to Decebalus from his horse. Decebalus' head and right hand were then taken to Trajan in Ranastorum by Maximus, who was decorated by the emperor. The trophy was sent to Rome where it was thrown on the Gemonian stairs. Tiberius Claudius Maximus' tomb cites 2 occasions where the legionary was decorated for his part in the Dacian Wars, one of which being the acquisition and recovery of Decebalus' head. Romanian national hero. Decebalus began to be seen in these terms during the 19th century, when he came to be associated with romantic ideals of national freedom and resistance to imperialism. Romanian politician Mihail Cogălnicianu gave a speech in 1843 in which he called Decebalus the greatest barbarian king of all time, more worthy to be on the throne of Rome than the rascally descendants of Augustus. Alexu Russo compared him to the medieval hero Stephen the Great, saying, "The one and the other both had the same aim, the same sublime idea, the independence of their country. Both are heroes, but Stephen is a more local hero, a Moldavian hero, while Decebalus is the hero of the world." Mihai Eminescu, the Romanian national poet, wrote the historical drama Decebalus. George Cosbec's 1896 poem Decebalus Cata Popor lauds the Dacian leader's scorn of death. Decebalus was often paired with his enemy Trajan, with the former representing national identity and the latter the grandeur and classical values brought by Rome. Decebalus and Trajan were depicted as a pair on many Romanian banknotes. Decebalus and Trajan were regularly invoked at the coronation of new rulers. Both featured significantly in the imagery of Ferdinand I of Romania and his wife Marie of Romania. The Romanian poet Aaron Cotras wrote a long poem, Maria Domna, after Marie's death, invoking both Decebalus and Trajan as admirers of Marie. He remained a hero in the communist era, especially in the Stalinist, national communism, of Gheorghiu Dej, according to Lavinia Stan and Lucian Tersescu, in a process paralleling the way modern Serbs perceive their defeat by the Ottoman Turks in the Battle of Kosovo of 1389. Decebalus' defeat of the hands of Trajan in 101–107 CE and the resulting population mix were reclaimed as the cornerstones of Romanian ethnic identity. The nationalist model progressed further under Nicolae Ceausescu, under whom Decebalus was listed as one of the 10 great leaders of Romania. He was depicted as a great national leader in two major epic films in this period, The Dacians and The Column. In both films he was portrayed by Amzapeli. Several public statues of Decebalus were also set up in the Ceausescu era, including an equestrian statue in Davia, created in 1978 by the sculptor Ion Jali, and a column topped by a bust in Drobeta Târnu Severin, created in 1972. He was central to the nationalist proto-cronism movement, which identified Romania as the cradle of civilization. During the 1990s, a team of sculptors carved a 40-meter-tall rock sculpture of Decebalus from a stone outcrop near the city of Orsova, Romania. It was devised and funded by Iosif Constantin Dragan, a supporter of the proto-cronism movement. He is quoted saying, "Anyone traveling towards Decebalus Rex Dragon Fecit, King Decebalus made by Dragon, is also traveling towards the origins of European civilization, and will discover that a united Europe represents the natural course of history." Image gallery. Decebalus, a statue in Timișoara. Statue in Deva, Romania. Rock sculpture at the Iron Gates. 1915 Romanian banknote pairing Trajan and Decebalus.